How do I set up my own? Let's see if this actually can start working. There we go. Okay. Let me. That. All right, this is Sutherland again. I'm trying to do a basic tutorial on modding for everybody. Hang on, let me make sure my mic is actually going to pick up everything, because my last video was a little iffy. It's alright. It's mostly because my volume for how I talk changes a lot. Alright, I'll start this up. Alright, so the basics. And when I say the basics, I mean this is the absolute basics of modding. I'm not going to go too crazy in depth, just for a lot of our beginners, because I know no one really held my hand in the beginning, and it sucked because I had no clue what I was doing. So, what you're going to want to start off by doing, because a lot of people don't know about this is the mod section. That's where you go to upgrade them, to fuse them, to do a bunch of randomness. Here, I'll just show this off for the frank of showing it. You can transmute, just pick 4. Transmute. It almost gives you crap every time. Yeah, look at there. Crap. I rarely do this. The other thing, you just find the mods you want, because a lot of people don't know about this. Say, for instance, let's see. Pressure point. There's a classic. You'll use that on almost all of your melee weapons. So you pick one out, not the 125 I have there. Go up, pick fusion, and hit RB until whatever you could afford. I mean, at first you're not going to be able to afford a whole lot because Endo's kind of annoying. Later on you'll start picking up Endo 400 at a time, and you really won't notice it anymore. So what you do, hit RB a couple times, LB if you want to go back, and then hit apply fusion with the X button there. It'll cost you a certain amount of Endo, a certain amount of credits. Those are all just things you earn as you go. Hit apply, hit A, boom, just like that. I got an upgraded pressure point I could use on my melee weapon. Alright. I already have most... Well, actually, all the mods I want, I already have leveled up. I still need to go earn a couple of randoms, but that'll work for what I'm showing you. Alright. So, this is personally how I mod most of my frames. I don't go all out for any particular stat unless it's absolutely important. Typically you could keep it pretty balanced, and if you could keep your efficiency up, you'll be way better off in the long run. A lot of people go to the strength builds, but it's like double the damage, but at the same time you could cast half as many times. Or I can make it so my efficiency works really well, and I can cast it 4 times over again with a mild upgrade to strength. I value that way more than I would the ability to hit it 1 time and have it hit harder. Anyway, we'll start off by explaining some basic mods. This slot up here to the top left, this is called your aura mod. If you go down to the bottom and hit RB once, it'll take you to your aura tab. Under the aura tab, you can pick whatever aura you want. It's pretty useful. They actually add on to the capacity at the top left there. If you don't have the capacity, you won't be able to equip the mods you need. This one starts the polarities. Oh, this is going to be annoying. Here, I'll go down here. I have fleeting expertise. You don't want it completely leveled either, if you ever do get that. It has that little dash at the top right there. If I remove that, you'll see it. That's the mod polarity for that particular slot. So what you want to do is go down here, find another thing with a dash in it. Not that, because it'll cost too much. Let's see. Here, coaction drift. And boom, it'll work. Great. If you don't do that, and you say don't have a mod at all, or actually, here, let me find one that I could still afford to put in there. Here, this will probably work. I want to say it adds 50% to the cost. Oh no, it looks like 25. But yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to match your mod polarities. It'll save you time, save you some plat. Pretty useful too. Let me reset this back to normal. But some of the basic mods you're going to want for your frame. Typically, some sort of survival mod. There's redirection. There's the gladiator sets. It has a couple decent ones. There's vitality right there, which ups your health. Redirections your shield. Vigor. I got the prime version over here. You'll get that for 500? No, 400 day login, I think. Yes, 400 day. But the standard version is over here. It gives you 120% for shield and health. It's decent, but you're probably better off going with just one. Well, not just one. I have other frames, but for mag's sake, I'll use just redirection. And another decent survivability mod is called Quick Thinking. Now, with Quick Thinking, instead of dying, you'll waste energy sort of as a health bar. You don't want to do that too much. If you don't have rage, that could be a serious downfall for you. But it'll keep you going for a little bit. Hopefully enough time so you can get behind cover, get that shield back, or you drop a health pad or anything like that. Let's go. We'll go duration first. Duration has a couple different mods that affect it. There's the continuity, or prime continuity in my case. Let's see the standard. There's the standard version. It costs 9 normally. It has a V polarity. Constitution also upgrades your duration. Fleeting expertise does a negative on your duration. That's why you don't want to go too all out with fleeting expertise. I would recommend keeping it to the 3. That way you have the 170% efficiency. However, you only lose 40% off your standard duration. Then there's narrow-minded, and then which is a positive. Where to go? There it is. Narrow-minded. Pretty useful. I don't use it a whole lot because the negative range is pretty tough. I recommend keeping it to a point where stretch will balance it out. What's next? Oh yeah, transient fortitude is a negative to duration. So you want to look out for those if you want to build a good duration build. For instance, for someone like Mesa or Gara who has decent defensive abilities, if you have a decent duration. Now, next off, we'll go efficiency. There's literally only 2 efficiency mods and 1 negative one. You have... I don't have to quit. No, I do. Streamline right there, 30%. It's a dash polarity. Actually, both of them are. Fleeting expertise and Streamline are a dash polarity. You'll want to use them whenever you want to cast more often. Pretty useful. Burns up less energy. You can be more efficient on the battlefield. Next up, just 2... Oh, no, 3. There's stretch. There's stretch for range. It gives you 45%. The other one's overextended, which I only use for Nova for her speed build, but gives you 90%, which is huge, completely doubling your range. However, it also makes it so you lose 60% of your ability strength, so you'll probably want to balance it out with intensify. I'll get to that though in a second. And then let's see. Oh, yeah, there's nothing negative for stretch, is there? Yeah, nothing negative for stretch, luckily. Oh, besides narrow-minded. Yeah, narrow-minded. Lastly, power strength. If you want to alter your frame's power strength, you have a couple of routes to go. You have intensify, which I already have equipped, as you can see. Power drift, which you unlock later on after you unlock a certain chunk of the game that's supposed to be hidden to new players. I don't know if it's still like that. I just know that's how it was forever ago. Then there's blind rage, which subtracts out of efficiency, but it's a pretty sizable upgrade to your power strength. So if you really want to go that route, it's a good option. Transient fortitude, also a positive. And other than overextended, there's no other negatives to power strength. So you're only way to go negative. But there's the basics. There's other ways to help out your frame survivability. There's fast deflection. Totally forgot about that. Ups your shield recharge speed. I use it for literally nothing.
Tenno, a new alert has begun.
Yeah, that'll keep you guys going as far as your frames early on. Next, weapons. You want to identify key stats on your weapons. Now the big ones I recommend looking off are the crit chance, along with the crit multiplier, because typically you'll get some decent stats for crit chance. Like, here, I'll go to the unmodded version I have here. The Dread, because this is like a classic bow, everyone gets it at some point. It starts off with 50%, so guess what you want to modify on the Dread? That's right, you probably guessed right, crit. Especially if you're listening at all. So, the basic way to go to crit is you're going to want Point Strike. Boom, big old 125% crit chance. That is huge, especially early on. Like, now it's kind of getting normal. The other thing you're going to want, if you're going a crit build, is Vital Sense. That ups your crit damage. And if you want to get really greedy, let's see where I have it. You'll want Hammer Shot. There it is. Right there. Depolarity. They're all pretty useful for these builds. But that's just for crit. If you're just going for pretty much any primary weapon, besides obviously the shotguns, you'll need to go with Serration, and you'll also more than likely want Split Chamber. These are just sort of the universal mobs you'll end up needing whenever you're building with them. That's just a basic startup to a build. It'll get you pretty decent stats. It'll kill pretty well. I also typically will run, let's see if I can find it, Vile Acceleration on a bow. It gives you 90% fire rate, but on bows it's double, so you have a whole 180% fire rate added on for only minus 15% damage. But at the same time, the charge rate on that bastard is now 0.36, which is almost no time at all in this game when you're trying to hit someone with the bow. Let's see, we got 2 open slots. A couple things you could go with when you have 2 open slots. One, you could go pick an element. That's a pretty useful strategy for upping your damage quite a bit. Now, if you're going against the Grineer and you're not using a heavily statused weapon, you're going to want Radiation or Viral. That's just going to do the maximum damage for you. Radiation's more for the heavy armor. Viral's more for the random goons. This is going to be a power hitter, so personally I'd go Radiation. Viral is also a decent option. They both do 75% extra damage to Grineer. And if you wanted to go, cancel out those. If you're going Corpus, I'd probably, Corpus are all kind of weak. You're gonna either want Magnetic, which should be the cryo, like a cold, added on with Stormbreaker here for electricity. We'll turn that into magnetic damage, as you see over there with the 1700 damage. And then for the infected, there's a couple different ways you can go, but personally I recommend gas, just because if that procs, it'll hit multiple infected, because those guys clump up like no other. They're always just touching at all points. It's weird. Yeah, that's how I'd recommend probably building out for a Dread, especially meant for killing the infected. The other option, because I showed you crit, this is going to hit like a truck against the infected, because it's going to be you do for a Klondike bar. Would you murder a guy? I don't know. I'm honestly surprised I have any viewers. I'd kill a bunch of Grineer for a Klondike bar, I guess. Canadian Yorker. Now then, this is probably the best option to show for cryo, or for not even for cryo, for status weapons. Status weapons, you're gonna mod them very differently. Whoa, dude, murdering a Grineer? That's like daily on this game. Anyway, you're still going to want to go with the standard Serration, Split Chamber, super boring. Like I said, those are just sort of required now. If you want to go for the level like 40 pluses, you're going to need Serration on there. Guaranteed. Now, the easiest way to go status, like literally ever, especially for beam weapons. Well, actually, for beam weapons, there's an added bonus. If you up your fire rate, it'll also up your, because you see it over there, it's status per second. Let's see if I can find my vial acceleration. Damn it, where'd it go? There it is. Boom, just like that, my status per second went up. Then, the mods you're gonna want are called the dual stat mods. For primaries, there's Malignant Force, Rhyme rounds, Thermite rounds, and then High Voltage. Depends who you're killing, but you're gonna want to pick just a bunch of them, throw them together. Like, yeah, I'll set this up if I was going after Grenier. You're gonna want Lightning and Fire for the radiation damage. And then if you go with Rhyme rounds and Malignant Force, you'll have a pretty decent viral as well. And then if I get enough points, or if I go form of this thing again, I could throw on probably cryo rounds up that viral some more. Yeah, that's all you're gonna really need for that. It's nothing too crazy when it comes down to status build weapons. Like, that's already at 193%. That's going to status proc a ton. Yeah, that's all you really need to know on those. Let's see if there's anything else I'm missing here. Yeah, nothing too crazy. Oh, before I forget, because I had someone asking me the other day whether this is useful. Let's see here. Piercing hit is garbage. Where's the slash one? Wouldn't use it. 30% is just next to completely useless. Sawtooth clip, useless. Bladed rounds is definitely not useless. It is an amazing mod. You will literally never need Eagle Eye, ever. Well, actually on the planes now it's a whole other set. I'll give him credit for that. Magazine warp is useless. Piercing hits useless. Point strike's amazing. That. Rifle amplitude's useless. Rupture's useless. There's a lot of earlier mods you're going to get a ton of that you're just going to want to break down into endo. Holy crap, I forgot to show you that. Alright, here, real quick, a little side note for anyone that didn't, that was watching earlier. To get more endo, you can either go kill stuff all frickin' day, or go over here, hit A, select all for your duplicates, because I don't need 203 of those, or 202 of those, or 199 of that. Bring them over here to dissolve. And then you just dissolve them down. Just like that, I got 3,000 more endo to go upgrade mods with. Pretty useful. Highly recommend doing that to your trash mods. You're not going to need Sundering Weave ever. I almost guarantee it. Well, except for like literally leveling out the machetes. And then throwing them away, because machetes are awful. They need a definite buff. Alright, back to it. Secondaries. Hooray! Axolotl Prime. I'm just going to cover the basic mods you're going to need for that. We already talked about the status and crit. I'd recommend building off of status for this weapon, just because it's a little better off that way. Because it hits 1,000,000 times a second, and it also has a pretty decent status chance by the time you're done. And the secondaries have terrible crit. I don't know why, they just do. The 3 guaranteed mods you're going to want on pretty much every one of these bastards is Hornet Strike, Barrel Diffusion, and Lethal Torrent. You're just going to need them. Multi-shot is one of the most broken stats in this game. It increases your status, it increases your damage, it's just useful all around. Each bullet has a chance to crit, so it's really useful for high crit weapons. Alright, moving on here. You also still want the dual stat mods for the status builds. They're just different name. You earn them all from various locations. Most of these you earn from Spy. The electric mods you'll have to earn from the Hive mission on Ares to get the electric mods. And I want to say the rifle mod you could only get from the trader. But Pistol Pestilence and the various poison ones you're going to have to get by doing the tier T4 Void, which is that top section of the Void that you unlock. Actually, no, not top. Like the highest ranking top, not physically the top void mission. Then what else do we need here? About all you'll need to know for dealing with the secondaries. I'll probably go more in depth for each section later on. I'm just going to cover the basics. Now there's two ways you could go for melee weapons. Pressure point you're gonna need every time. I personally prefer Primed Fury, or well, normal Fury if you don't have Primed Fury yet. Eventually you'll get it. I want to say it's the 200-day login, so you've got a while if you just started playing. But yeah, you're gonna have to go get those. The other thing, you're probably gonna want Life Strike. Crazily useful, especially early on, because there's not a whole lot of ways to regen health unless you're playing as Trinity or you go down the Vazarin focus, which way later in the game for a lot of people. And I'm not going to ruin what Vazarin is, but it's useful, I assure you. You'll also want probably Drifting Contact and Blood Rush. If you happen to get your hands on them, they make life way better for melee. You will see numbers quadrupling that, which was there before they came out. Actually, that came out with the Acolyte event 2 years ago. So, wait, was it 2 years? Yeah, I'll say 2 years. There's nothing too crazy about melee that I could explain real quickly. What you will want is you'll typically want like 1 or 2 element mods on there just for basic damage. And pretty much the universal thing you're going to be doing lately is if you get these mods, it'll allow you, not Organ Shatter, Drifting Contact and Blood Rush. It stacks on crit chance for your combo multiplier. Now, that wouldn't be useful if it was still just a 2-second cooldown before it reset. So you literally just need to chain countless murders together. What you need to do now is with Drifting Contact, now it's a 12-second gap before you lose it and it resets. So it's fairly useful for getting your numbers up there, because as I said, this is like adding on multiple organ shatters every time you add on to your combo. So you'll eventually start seeing you'll see guaranteed yellow crits, you'll start seeing your orange crits, and then eventually, typically most weapons you'll need to see it in like the 3-time multiplier, you'll just start seeing red crits, which is crazy useful. And actually I should probably explain what a red crit is. So early on, when you're getting standard attacks are white. Then you'll move up to yellow for your crits. That's where you have that multiplier there, that 3.8 for my Nakana. Then, the next step, and I shouldn't have had it set to an odd number, so I'm just going to get rid of that, so it says 2. Because if not, it'd suck. The next step is orange crit. Orange crit is 2 crits that happen, basically. So instead it'll be times 4 damage. Pretty useful. And then, from orange crit to red crit, it sort of just rises exponentially, so that it'll be an 8-time multiplier. And if you get further and further into red crits, it'll eventually just become completely and utterly ridiculous, and you'll be hitting for some insane numbers like 32 times what you're doing, along with the standard combat multiplier for melee, whereas you hit more targets, it'll just naturally rise with the multiplier. So, yeah, you'll see some pretty crazy stuff in the melee section, especially if you get any of the, like, the covert lethalities or anything crazy like that, because then you could just smack them down. But there's a basic intro to modding. Hopefully you find this useful. Feel free to trash me down below in the chat section whenever you feel like it. Alright, with that, I'm signing off. I will probably try to explain everything more in depth later. I honestly don't know how these streams are going to go yet. Later.